So I've given you guys an HTML page with some text on it that looks like this, and we want it to end up looking like this. And we're going to do it marking up all of the content as we have before, but the difference is going to be we're going to create these regions that are divs and we're going to give them an ID. And then we're going to use CSS to add a lot of styles to those divs instead of doing it to all of the individual parts. And also it gives us the advantage that if I have a paragraph here and a paragraph there, they could actually have different CSS because I'm going to target the div that they're in. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to, in my code, wrap all of the content that's within my body tag in a div with an ID that equals, in quotes, container. All right, and close that out. Okay, so that's up here at the top, right after the body tag. Then I'm going to go down to the bottom, right before the close of my body tag, and I'm going to close that div out. And I don't need to put anything that references that this is the container. You don't need to have the ID repeated. It's just a closing of the div. So this one is going to go around everything, right? So, and my other divs are going inside of this, right? So you guys are familiar with the idea of like tags within tags, right? We have all of this stuff within the body tags and all of this is within the HTML tags. So it's the same concept. Okay, now I'm going to come down a line. And this stuff that's up in the top here, I'm going to put into another div space ID equals within quotes heading. And then close that out. And I'm going to close this div. I'm going to go down to the bottom of all of my paragraph stuff. And I'm going to put my close. I'm actually going to bring it on a separate line so it's easier to see. Close that div. Now remember, I took out that so that Dreamweaver no longer closes tags for me. And if you may want to do that because when you're wrapping divs around, it can be kind of annoying. If you find that when you put your opening div, Dreamweaver puts a closing div for you right here, you have to cut that out and put it down here. If you want to stop it from doing that, go up to Edit, Preferences, Code Hints, and click Never. So it stops under close tags, never. So it stops doing that. Okay, so now we have our header. And if you look over here in the designer view, basically we have a box that's been put around everything. That's the one for our container. And we have a box that's been put around for the top text, and that is for our header. In fact, if I hover over it, it tells me that. Also, there are these cool little like code indicators down here at the bottom. It tells me when I'm clicking up here that I am in my div with the ID, so the hashtag means ID, header. And if I click on this one, div with the ID container, it will select my container. Okay, so next we are going to have, oh, actually I closed my, no I didn't, sorry. So next we're going to wrap the images. That's going to be in a different div. So I'm going to put that with a div space ID equals, and within quotes, I'm just going to call this div main. And I'm going to go after where it says images, go down a line just to make it easier to see, and close that div out right here. Okay, and now the last one that says put your info in here, I'm going to put another div space with an ID equals, and in quotes, footer. Oops. And close that out. And then come down here. And if you did this correctly, you should have two closing divs right at the bottom. I like my code to be neater. I'm going to go up to Edit, Code, Apply Source Formatting, and now it's a lot easier to see. So when I'm troubleshooting, I'm looking to see, okay, here you have an opening div, down here you have a closing div, opening header, where's your closing. So it just makes it a lot easier if you apply the source formatting. Okay, so that's the first step. First, we just marked up the divs within our body tag, and then in the next video, we will start applying CSS styles to these divs.